My guest of the day is Ajit Dayal, and he's here to talk about a host of things, but most importantly about Help Your NGO, HYNGO. What really is Help Your NGO? Let's start off with that one, yeah?
Help Your NGO is an effort that we've started to bring a lot more transparency to the NGO sector, so that when you as an individual want to give a donation, you have a sense of where the money is being used, and therefore you can decide which NGO to help. And it's also a way for us to allow NGOs to become better at their work, so they can be more efficient and do the wonderful work that they're doing on a much larger scale.
Yeah. Does it also help me to compare NGOs, Ajit? For example, if NGO X is into literacy or education for the girl child, and NGO Y is also into the same, can I actually compare balance sheets? Can I compare
Absolutely.
follow-up programs and things like that?
Absolutely. In fact, in the late 90s, we launched something called the Stock Market Yearbook to do that for listed stocks. And now that has evolved into Equitymaster website, where you can compare financials on about 500 listed companies and figure out which is a more efficient cement company or petrochemical company or finance company. In a very similar way, we've taken that same analysis, that same rigor, and moving into the NGO world for you to figure out which NGO, for example, in the child space, is more efficient in terms of reaching more money out to the children. Of course, we need to recognize the limitations of this in the NGO world, because helping a child in Bihar may not be the same costing as helping a child, for example, in Bombay. So there are certain limitations of any kind of data, but as a first analysis or first few steps, in our view, it's a very, very powerful tool.
You know, Ajit, I bumped into a couple of your colleagues at a Teach for India symposium or seminar or panel discussion. And that's how you being on the show, started the whole process. They did tell me a wee bit about Help Your NGO, but what they didn't tell me is how a man with 20 years in asset management and financial research and analysis would suddenly turn his head NGO words. So was there some kind of divine revelation, or was it something that you were thinking of for a while before you got into?
So, I got into finance not because I'm smart, because I'm not so smart. Because if you're smart, you'd become a doctor like my father, or you'd be an engineer. No, seriously, you'd be an engineer. I think as I got into the field of finance, I realized a couple of things. One is that you don't have to be very smart in the field of finance, but it does teach you, especially if you do an MBA, it teaches you a lot about your skills on presentation. And in some sense, as we evolved in finance, we realized there is so much lack of transparency. And the companies that we set up, Quantum Mutual Fund, Equitymaster, Personal FN, in the field of finance, are all working for the investors, trying to remove this rubbish that exists, the layers of rubbish that come from the large financial firms in India and around the world. And then in the year 2000, 14 years ago, we said, if we've done this successfully in finance, why can't we bring this to the NGO world? So it's taken about a decade for us to evolve to where we are. And in many ways, one has to thank God and all the elements around us, because Pradeep Mehtani, who's the CEO of Help Your NGO, was coincidentally the person who helped set up the first book on the stock markets that we wrote in 1989. And through a confluence of events, he's now the CEO of Help Your NGO. And he's running that. So I think, everything takes its time. But yes, it did take us a long time to get here. But we're really excited about this.
Okay, now Ajit's been kind enough to bring 5 copies of the Help Your NGO Yearbook 2014. So here's a chance to win one of those. He just talked about a book that they wrote on a particular market. What market was that? All you have to do is answer that. One space, your answer, and name to 53650. Tag at the rate of HRISHIKAY on Twitter. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/HRISHIKAY. You like the page and you post. And also there's a Radio 1 Mumbai Facebook page. Let's do some rock. It's Van Halen, Panama. Ajit Dayal is founder, Quantum Advisors Private Limited, and the brains behind Help Your NGO. I'm in conversation with him.
This is Good Morning Mumbai, and you're with Hrishikay.
Radio 1.
Ajit Dayal is my guest this morning. Now, he's worked with leading US and UK financial advisory and asset management firms, either as a key member of the executive management team or through the investment advisor as a joint venture partner. And now, he's really passionate about things in the NGO space, and he wants to give back to the community, and fair enough. This is not your first tryst with radio. You were saying something off the mic, and I said, hold on here, we've got to get this conversation on the mic immediately. So talk about that a couple of decades ago.
Sure, that's right. In 1987, I wrote a comic book on the stock markets, on the stock exchange. And actually, we sold about 80,000 copies of that. It
Wow.
was priced at ₹5. And everyone, I mean, in the media wrote about it. And it was always being sold at various hawker stalls across Churchgate Station, etc. So I get this phone call from a gentleman whose name I figured out later was Bill Crawford. And Bill Crawford was the radio jockey of University of Texas Austin visiting India. Saw this book on the streets of Churchgate, picked it up, found out my phone number. There were no mobiles in those days. And then he interviewed me on those black tape recorders where blue was play and red was record. Took the tape, went off to the US and played it at University of Texas. So yes, that was my first tryst, if you will, with the world of radio. Although I never heard myself live.
It's actually given me a very interesting idea. If you look at the history of radio in this country with Mr. Amin Sayani and all those legends, Pandit Vinod Sharma and things like that, maybe I should get down to tracking the history of radio in this country. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Don't charge me a royalty on the idea.
No, not at all.
Another thing that you've got your fingers into, more than your finger into, is the NSPA, the National Streets for Performing Arts. To be honest, there is another gentleman who's come in here and talked about trying to secure public places for the arts, and that's Azan Kambata, my friend, who's the sculptor. And he was one of the first guys to walk into the studio and sit in the chair that you were thinking of sitting on and say, man, we need public places to be places where art can be exhibited, performers can come in. You've actually taken it to the next level. You're actually doing it on the ground. Talk about this.
Sure. So in the past, we used to fund shows at Nehru and at NCPA. And, I was actually in a dialogue with one of these institutions, and they were checking how much we'd fund for the next financial year. And while talking to them, I sort of just said these words. I said, look, we pay you 15-20 lakhs for one or two great performers to come in. And they land in Bombay, they stay at the Oberoi or Taj, and they go and perform at your place, and then they leave the next day, and maybe 2,000 rich people hear them max. And I took a John Lennon quote, and I said, like John Lennon said at Royal Albert Hall many years ago, the rich can rattle the jewels and your poor can clap your hands, and there's no poor people in the room, only the rich rattling the jewels. But can we take that same 20 lakhs of rupees, and can we move music to the commuters who travel in pretty pathetic conditions, and how do we make their lives better? How do we make them smile? And music, as we know, again, I travel a lot on work, and wherever you go in London and Amsterdam, New York, there's music. So I said, can we do that? Can we pay musicians a salary? So there's no guitar box, there's no hat where you may or may not drop in money.
Yeah, because in India that could be a problem.
Exactly.
And the ego comes in. Yeah,
absolutely. And you feel sorry for the musician. He's still performing with all his soul and heart, but the person's in a hurry, so there's no money. So we started NSPA in October 2012 with 8 musicians. I think we're around 40 musicians now and growing, and we intend to take it national. So these are all very expensive ventures, but at the same time, we've begun NSPA, and if you go on the website nspa.in, we've begun NSPA with a view that the world will be a far better place when a musician on average earns more than a person working for Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley on average. The world is completely...
And you're talking on an average. You're not talking about the Mick Jaggers and the Elton Johns of this world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Talking about on average. I mean, look at the field of finance. Again, that's the field that I'm in. We get paid too much for doing nothing, or rather for increasing the poverty level of our clients. We've stolen money from our clients by and large, and we've become rich in the field of finance. And we respect those people, and we worship those people and say, wow, these guys are so successful. I talk to my cousins and to the parents of my cousins, and to some extent I say that, where are the value systems that we all started with in life? All gone because money and market cap matters so much more, unfortunately, today.
My God, some telling words there, some telling comments. And Ajit Dayal has been kind enough to offer these yearbooks as prizes. It gives you a lot of very, very interesting dope that you want to know about this space. Here's the next question. Now, first, he talked about HelpYourNGO, a venture that he's involved with, Ajit Dayal. What is the other venture that he's involved with? He's talked about musicians and the ilk. So talk about that, or just give me the answer. What is the other project that he's involved in? One space your answer, name to 53650, tag at HRISHIKAY on Twitter and Facebook.com/HRISHIKAY on Facebook. Messages and back, it's Def Leppard, Armageddon It. What is Help Your NGO's website, or where are they on, or where are you online?
It's HelpYourNGO.com.
HelpYourNGO.com. Hang on to that. Pictures also of Ajit Dayal shortly on those social networking platforms. 9:29 in the morning. Ajit Dayal is in studio. We're talking about Help Your NGO, and we're also talking about NSPA, which is the National Streets for the Performing Arts. Nervousness on the part of the average Joe to actually put his money where his mouth is. And conversely, corporates and how they're spending their buck on charities, so to say, especially with the CSR bill coming into play. Everybody's eager to please and say that, we're doing the right thing. Talk about that a little bit, please.
Sure. So, there are about 3 million NGOs across India. That's what the estimates are. No one really knows the right number. And a lot of these NGOs would actually be political NGOs, if you want to call them that, where friends and family of politicians probably use them for slush money and moving black to white and white to black and whatever else. But there are genuine NGOs and there are great people doing some great work. And again, with Help Your NGO, you're trying to disseminate information on the good NGOs, which have the numbers, audited numbers, etc. And then you figure out who you want to help. But coming to the corporate world, the recent bill, which is introduced in India called the CSR, Corporate Social Responsibility, will bring in estimated 10,000 crores of new funding from corporates to the NGO world, which again will be seen by many as a business opportunity. And how do we plug into this? How do we get the money? How do we take it away to our private pockets? So I think people have to be very careful, because wherever there's a lot of money available, a lot of not so good people show up at the door. And at the same time, you've got corporate India whose approach to CSR is so different from the Western world. In the US, people like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, have given away tens of billions of dollars, 95% of their wealth away to charity. They were in India to meet the so-called corporate chieftains and invite them, say, hey, would you guys like to give money? No one showed up at the dinner, apparently. I was not invited, not being a billionaire, but anyway, no one showed up at their dinner. And when they were asked, why they didn't show up at their dinners to meet Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, apparently the response was, well, our money goes to build temples.
There's actually a very interesting performance this morning as part of the NSPA, National Streets for Performing Arts. Apparently, as we speak, Meherzad Yeda Baba is performing at the Borivali station, and Vipul and Sushant are performing in the next hour, which is 10 to 11 at the Borivali station. And this really takes your idea about having performers in public spaces actually going out and doing their thing. How cool is that? Yeah,
I think it's fantastic. And when we first launched NSPA at Churchgate Station on October 8th, 2012, I stood about 100 meters away to see, would this work? Is this a silly idea? We're sitting in an ivory tower, assuming what people want, or is it really what people want? And the first performer was Indian classical music. So there's no microphones, it's all acoustic. Crowded railway stations, no stage, no height to sit on where the audience looks up at you. And the street kid, effectively, with a stick in his hand, may have been 10, 11 years old, and he was chasing two other young children and beating them, trying to beat them. And they were running around between the legs of the various commuters. And when the first sound of the tabla and the harmonium came on, this small young kid looked around with the stick in his hand, trying to figure out where's that sound coming from. And when he saw the musicians, his stick, from a height of 2 feet above his short height anyway, fell to the floor. He dragged his stick to where the musicians were performing, sat next to them, and the stick suddenly, completely offbeat, was banging on the tile, on the floor, on the station platform, to what he thought was the beat of the music, completely offbeat. And those two young kids who he was beating looked at him, saw him sitting, and came and sat next to him, and he did not beat them. That's the power of music.
Sweet. The script with Hall of Fame, Ajit Dayal is talking Help Your NGO. You can go to HelpYourNGO.com and also NSPA. It's NSPA.in, isn't it, Ajit?
That is correct.
You can go and check out more. 9:33 conversation after this song. What a song.
This is Good Morning Mumbai, and you're with Hrishikay.
Radio 1.
Ajit Dayal is founder, Help Your NGO and NSPA, National Streets for Performing Arts. Also director of Equitymaster and Quantum Mutual Fund. What really is Equitymaster? Give us the lowdown on that, Ajit.
Sure. So, again, we started a database on listed stocks in 1989, which is called the Stock Market Yearbook, that converted into the website Equitymaster around 1996 when we went live on the net. Now Equitymaster gets some 80,000 unique visitors every day.
Wow.
Has roughly 1.4 million registered users who come to the website to get views on stocks. We're not a broker. So when we give you information, we don't care whether you transact or not. But you may subscribe to information like you buy a magazine or buy a newspaper. And what happens at the end of the day is between you and whatever else. It doesn't really make a difference to the magazine whether you bought the product advertised or not, etc. So within Equitymaster now, there's information on over 500 listed companies, and you can subscribe to information if you wish, but much of the website is for free, and it's what we call an unbiased view on where to put your money, which stocks to buy.
So just give us the website again, the details.
Equitymaster.com.
Equitymaster.com. You spent a considerable period of time in the US, in particular in Fort Lauderdale and the likes. Why did you just pack up and come back? Was it a patriotic thing to do, or was it just money that beckoned?
I went to the US in 1981 to do my MBA. I was 21 years old then. I'd just done my BA in economics from Jai Hind. And India in 1981 was a closed economy. I remember my mother and my cousins came to drop me to the airport in good old Indian style with garlands and everything. And they were all crying. And my mother, God bless her soul, she was crying, and I was laughing, and I was saying, why are you crying? I'm going to America.
I'm laughing right now.
I'm never going to come back. I'm going to love it there and never come back. The minute I reached my dorm and I opened the door to my room, I saw this empty space and I cried. And I suddenly realized how much I loved India and how much I missed India. And from the day I arrived at UNC for my MBA in Chapel Hill, from the day I arrived there, I started planning and plotting to come back. So the other people who went to the US to study at Wharton, etc., everywhere, had no desire to come back, and very few people came back. I was probably one of the few people who came back in 1984 and started working here with the Birla Group, a gentleman called Ashok Birla. And he really set me on the right path, if you will. I was very lucky.
Your absolute last chance to win a copy of the Help Your NGO Yearbook 2014, which Ajit Dayal is offering as a prize. He just talked about a particular site where he talks about stocks and equity. It's equity what? Just fill in the blanks. It's as simple as that. One space, your answer and name to 53650. Tag at HRISHIKAY on Twitter and Facebook.com/HRISHIKAY on Facebook. On those platforms, pictures of Ajit too. And also there's a Radio 1 Mumbai Facebook page. There she goes by Sixpence None the Richer. Some messages and then back. It's Nick Carter with Help Me. Thank you very much, all you wonderful people, for shouting out. P. Rishi, thank you. Aam Aadmi K10s, good morning. Good morning, Ruzan Siganporia. Hi, Royden. Hi, Jay Narula. The drive to Pune is all the more pleasurable because of the fabulous music you play for us. Thank you very much, brother. Thank you, Sriram. Thank you, Joshua Duarte. NSPA, National Streets for Performing Arts. A friend is a struggling musician. Where can I tell him to reach out to this organization? Just give out the website once again, Ajit.
It's nspa.in.
Hey, Vijay Venkatesh. How are you? Hey, Brilliance. Good morning. Good morning, Rohan Kanchan. Hey, Jiten Bhagat. I'm so glad you like Van Halen, David Lee Roth, all the works. AS. Good morning. Good morning, Rush Trip. Good morning, Radhika. Hi, Hari Krishnan. I'm in conversation with Ajit Dayal. Don't go anywhere.
This is Good Morning Mumbai, and you're with Hrishikay.
Radio 1.
Quantum Mutual Fund. That really is one of your foremost babies, if I can call them that, because Help Your NGO and NSPA came later.
Right.
It was Quantum Mutual Fund first.
Yeah.
So focus areas there, key areas there.
Yeah. So, around the world, investors give professional money managers their savings to invest and let them decide which stocks to be in. We started mutual funds in India as a country in 1993. We had Unit Trust of India before that. Quantum got its license in 2005, and we launched our first mutual fund in 2006. And we've revolutionized the way mutual funds are bought in India. Previously, there still is a distribution channel which missells and has missold products to investors, to all your listeners actually. And the distribution channel has made the money, and they frankly don't care what rubbish they've sold you. and you've been you're left holding rubbish. So Quantum Mutual Fund said, we'll go direct to investor. There will be, to take a Brooke Shields ad from way back when.
I like that already.
There's nothing that comes between me and my Vanderbilt jeans or whatever it was in those days. So anyway, so there's nothing that comes between you and the fund. There's no distributor. You go online, you read about Quantum Mutual Fund, and you subscribe and you put your money online. And we are changing the way the mutual fund industry is being run. Of course, there is lack of regulatory support, unfortunately, in what we're doing, but that's another story.
You like Raghuram Rajan as completely as an aside?
Yes, I think he's doing some great moves out there in RBI.
And you're not talking about the marathon running. You're talking
No,
about
I'm not talking about marathon running. Talking about the monetary policy stuff. Great stuff.
So you're saying the future's bright as long as he's around, yeah?
I think the future's bright, and I think that the key thing to remember is that, there are changes required in society and everything else, and you really start the change one step at a time, one individual at a time. You don't wait for some big top-down change and macro change. It's all about every individual doing their own thing, and I think in some sense Raghuram Rajan has done some great stuff at RBI.
Yeah.
Of course, he's got an institution behind him, but he's doing some great stuff.
Personal FM, what's that? Wealth management services?
That's wealth management. So you go to your bank and there's a private client guy, and again the private client guy or lady will tell you what's good for, what you should be buying. But again, there's a distribution fee somewhere, and the advice may or may not be what's best for you, but certainly great from a commission generating perspective for that bank. So Personal FN, again, personalfn.com is our attempt and our reach out there to tell investors where they should put their money based on a fee service, no distribution fees that we earn, and if we do disclose it.
Tom Petty time is learning to fly. Up ahead, he worked as a jobber on the floor of the Bombay Stock Exchange. Ajit Dayal, a bit of that. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers learning to fly, and I see that Ajit Dayal is enjoying himself. Great music. You're a rock fan, aren't you? Yeah.
I love rock. Love it.
Okay, there is also a competition, regular competitive instinct as far as NGOs are concerned on Help Your NGO. So talk a little bit about that, please.
So each and every fortnight we give 5,000 rupees to the NGO of the fortnight.
Nice.
And on Help Your NGO, you go there and you nominate the cause and the NGO that you like. And whoever gets the most likes, in some sense, and the most votes, gets 5,000 rupees from us.
You worked as a jobber on the floor of the Bombay Stock Exchange. For the people who are not familiar with finance or stock jargon, explain what a jobber is and talk about that experience.
So, I've done all the research and done spreadsheets, but there's a reality of the market. So in the previous days, prior to electronic trading, way back when in history, in the 1980s, there was a floor on the stock exchange. And if you wanted to sell ACC, and there's another buyer out there, you don't know the buyer.
Yeah.
So there was an in-between guy who just stood there on the floor in a particular spot. And people would rush to that person, grab him, hold him. I want to sell. Another guy coming, I want to buy. And the jobber kind of makes what you call a bid offer price. That's a spread. And that's his commission for the risk he takes, that if you want to sell and he holds on to shares and there's no buyer, he's stuck with the stock. So that's a spread, if you will. So jobbing is what it used to be called. Really wild. Really wild. Physical wild. Physical wild. And, your clothes would be messed up and your hair messed up. And big people around you. And I'm not that big. So.
Messages and back. Last leg of conversation with Ajit Dayal. This time, how does he get some sum?
94.3 Radio 1.
Ajit Dayal from Help Your NGO today says he heard the police at Rang Bhavan. Every little thing she does is magic. Live. Awesome.
That must have been 79, I think it was.
1980.
Yeah, it was long time ago. It was fantastic.
Sting in the flesh in front of your eyes. How cool is that? Okay, congratulations, you guys. You get your Help Your NGO yearbook. 5 of you. Buckle. Your last 4 digits are 0077. Very James Bond-esque, if I can say that. You're absolutely correct. NSPA is the other initiative that Ajit Dayal is involved with. Pranav, your last 4 digits are 1666. You're absolutely correct. He was in the stock market before. He still continues to in a small vein before he got into the NGO space. Shavir, your last 4 digits are 8420. Congratulations, you also get a yearbook. NSPA is the correct answer. AS, I picked you out from Twitter, so you're going to have to email me your number and name, mate. It's rishikesh.kannan@radio1.in. And Sriram Mahadevan, you're absolutely correct. I asked you to fill in the banks. I said Equity-Master and it's equitymaster.com. So congratulations, Sriram. Pooja from the contest department will get in touch with you guys, and you will find out more about Help Your NGO and a whole host of NGOs courtesy that particular yearbook. Okay, you have a gift registry system. Talk about that.
That's right. So, in the US, when people get married, they go to a store and they sign up and they say, give me these things that I need, and you go to Macy's and you give them gifts. Here in India, we said, instead of giving someone a birthday present or an anniversary present or a wedding present, can you make a donation on their behalf? So there's a gift registry on the website, HelpYourNGO.com, where you can say, I'm giving a gift, and you may not want to tell the person how much money or what you've done, but just a simple message goes out to that person saying a gift has been given to so-and-so NGO on your behalf, if you wish that to happen.
94.3
You're listening to Good Morning Mumbai with Hrishikay.
Radio 1.
Before you go, Ajit Dayal, how do you get some sun?
Walking on Marine Drive, and whenever I can, flying off to Goa and just walking on the beach and just loving and absorbing the sun. I love the sun. I love the ocean.
And you're a fit man for a person in your profession. No smoking, no drinking, not even a single cup of tea in your duration here. Tea, coffee, no. So you're just a pure water person.
I drink
so
water,
I imagine a lot of running on the beach too.
Oh no, just walking. I'm not that fit. I'm not that fit at all. I just don't do too many of the minor vices, and hopefully no major vices.
Thanks very much for rolling in. It was great fun, and I wish you and Help Your NGO and Equitymaster and Quantum Mutual Fund, as well as NSPA, all the best.
And I wish you all the best, and do good and be good forever for all your listeners. Thank you very much.